Hello everybody, I'm into the Rockers of the Yellow Submarine, and today is a video I would love to talk about romantic slash modernist composer who passed away at the same day today and or same month and dates as today, but far years ago. And that name is Camille Saint-Saëns, even though people would be familiar with the last name Saint-Saëns. It's similar with people call him composers, Beethoven, Mozart, Bach, and Tchaikovsky, Vivaldi, all the last names. But I know all the names offhand, like the first and last name. And this composer, if you're not very familiar with this guy, he wrote one of the most well-known. He only wrote like the most well-known songs. The only well-known songs that he wrote was "The Carnival of Animals" and Dance of Death." If you're not familiar with those songs, or if you're not familiar with "Dance of Death" song, I definitely recommend checking it out. And it's a fantastic song. It's really haunting, very like a terror song. Is less if it's not your thing, you're probably gonna not like it. I mean, you're most likely gonna be familiar with that song. The one of the and another well-known song that you're probably gonna be familiar with is the finale of the Carnival of the Animals, and that's the one that goes. It's that one. And the Carnival of the Animals, I am familiar with them. Not the whole tracks, but I am familiar with a couple of them. The one I actually really enjoyed the most is March of the Lions, Aquarium, and Character with Long Ears. I believe that's the nickname. And no, I'm not making that up. And also one of my favorites is The Fossils, Pianist, even though the pianist has a simple and it may probably annoy you because it plays the same chord. But, I mean, this was really before a lot of musicians started to do the same thing with repeating their riffs and their instruments. But another song that actually stood out to me is also Kangaroos. That I love that chord progression on the piano. Is this do 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 do. That one actually kind of funny. Because the Carnival of Animals, it wasn't supposed to be taken seriously. This was actually at the time Saint-Saëns wanted to make that song just to poke fun at the animals, but musically, and I thought it was a great idea for his music that he wrote. And as much as I'm not the biggest fan of Saint-Saëns' music, but the most well-known songs that he also done was Symphony Number 3, Organ, or many people will consider it calling it Symphony Organ if they're talking about Saint-Saëns. He also wrote Piano Crescendo Number 2, of course, what I mentioned earlier, Dance of Death, and The Carnival of Animals, and he wrote, like, I would name off plenty of offhand, but and he also did Violin Crescendo, but those are pretty much the hallmarks. It may because when you talk about classical music, Saint-Saëns is not the first thing in mind when you say it, because many people are not going to be familiar with the name, but they're most likely going to be familiar with the songs that he wrote and or composed more accurately. And he is a composer who was I would consider him a romantic slash modernist because he was around in those era at the time before he passed away at the age of 85 years old. Wow, what a old age. And I'm not kidding you. That is a really old age that he passed away at 85 years old. Can you imagine? Especially, he was born in 1835 and he passed away in 1921. That is a crazy lifetime, even for back then. Because you gotta think about it. You gotta keep this in mind. This was back then before illness was having a cure or treatments, anything like that. Because, for example, like, you have, like, famous celebrities like Bob Barker or Betty White. Those are celebrities, but they're living today, even though they were born in the 20s. That's insane, because, I mean, they must have struggled their health for over the years, but they had recovery from it because of the illness. Fully, they have fully tested of how to get the illness to work. I don't really know how am I supposed to say it, but otherwise, you get the point. But him and Igor Stravinsky, oh, he's another composer, but he's mostly a modernist composer. And Giuseppe Verdi, I believe I pronounced the name. Both are probably like the longest, in my opinion, the longest running composers of all time. Because Stravinsky was 87 years old. If his birthday was up, he would have been 88. He passed away a couple months, I believe, a couple months before his death occurred. And he was born in 1882 through 1971. Keep this in mind. This was the same year as Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, John Lennon's Imagine record, And even Jim Morrison's death in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory film came out. I think I've said it again, but that's insane. That year had a lot of crazy stuff happening at the time, or at the year, more accurately. And Verdi, you're going to be easily familiar with his music because I'm going to talk about him as well. But this is just a video just to dedicate to Saint-Saëns, and I listened to this album just now, and as much as I don't know fully, I'm not familiar with all of them, but I am familiar with the Carnival of Animals, and I'm very familiar. I think everybody should be familiar with the Dance of Death. Everybody heard it before. I mean, at least they should have heard it at least once. But this Dance of Death, I think it's probably my favorite Saint-Saëns songs. Despite being a most well-known song, this is probably one of my favorites because of how, even though the Carnival of Animals, I really love it too because I love all the sections of poke fun of the animals. I like that. I love the humor in it, even though it's mostly musical, not just singing wise, but it's mostly music, the instruments they work on to poke fun of it, and I love that, and that's a great way to poke fun of it, especially for back in the day too. That's awesome. And a lot of people nowadays has been poking fun of a lot of stuff, but I mean, to be fair, I think, in my opinion, I think Saint-Saëns is probably, in my opinion, if I'm not correct, or if I'm correct, he's probably one of the originals to poke fun at, to poke fun of everything what he sees, or what was, I mean, not what was happening, but what he sees that he pokes fun of. I wonder if he was the original, in my opinion. I would love to know. But that's insane, too. Saint-Saëns, I mean, as much as I'm going to talk about him more later on because I'm not as the number one most familiar with him, but I've tried to listen to the album entirely, but I never got a chance because I've been busy working with my father at mechanical work. And so it's going to take some while, too. And holy crap, it's been a busy weekend. And next Friday is going, actually next week is going to be Christmas Day, or actually Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and next week after that is going to be New Year's Eve, and that's where we celebrate it, and I cannot wait. And this, by the way, this video is posted on the same day. And sorry if I posted a little late, because I've been busy, I can't even get the time to work, too, or I can't even manage to get a work of making videos. But the video I posted was on December 16th, the same month and date. And he was born October 9th, 1835, in Paris. So he was French. And he passed away in Algiers, if I pronounce it correctly. It's Algiers, if I'm correct. But this composer, I will say, he's not my favorite composer ever, but his musics are really good, I gotta say. His musics are really good. I'm gonna listen to his musics more and more, and I'm gonna give you my feedback on it. And I got the panorama version of Camille Saint-Saëns. That's why I know so much about this guy, because they made a panorama version of him, and I really love his music, and so far I'm really loving it. And the Carnival of Animals is really like where we get, well, not like his personality, but like how he makes it. It's so fun. Carnival of Animals is pretty much a fun, like basically, even though it's a poking fun of it, animals, but it's actually pretty cool, I can't lie. And basically, this composer, even though I'm not the hugest fan, I keep repeating myself. Sometimes I always repeat myself all the time, just to like basically fill up, because I have no idea what to say after what I think about Saint-Saëns' music. And I gotta say, Dance of Death is probably in my opinion one of, I'm not gonna say it's the darkest song ever, but it's definitely one of the darkest songs he's ever composed, I will say. Or I mean, more accurately, it was one of the most darkest, or well, not one of the most darkest, but one of the darkest musics you will ever hear in classical music. Even though you would have picked Igor Stravinsky, because his musics are dark too. I mean, it's mostly the modernist era where they had more of the edge, more of the dark, edgy music in the classical, and I love that because you can hear that in Igor Stravinsky, or I call him Igor Stravinsky, but many people consider to call it Igor Stravinsky. I kind of want to call him. Oh, it doesn't really matter, but maybe we'll consider it to call his last name Stravinsky. Shostakovich is also another modernist composer. At the time, he makes dark music. I mean, because that is, I'm just guessing it's basically a modernist era. I don't really know fully about the history of it, but I would be very curious to know. But holy crap! So basically, it's just gonna be a really short dedication to Saint-Saëns. Even though I don't really have too much to say about him, even though I will say his music is really fun and awesome at the same time because they're very creative. I will say very creative composer, especially for a romantic slash modernist composer. And that's pretty much it. Because even though I'm going to talk about him later on while I do a review, not only on the panorama, but like even like I would later on in the future, I would review songs from the composers just to give my feedback on what do I think about him. But it's I'm going to plan on doing that later on. So at this point, that I'm going to do a minute of silence because this video is dedication to Saint-Saëns, and I'm gonna do a 1 minute silence, and 1 minute silence to dedicate him because I mean he did left out one of the most memorable or one of the most beautiful, one of the most creative writing, composing in classical music. Let's have 1 minute of silence of Saint-Saëns and remember his music, so forth. And that's it for the 1 minute silence. And I just want to say to Saint-Saëns, if he's looking at me or hearing me, I just want to say thank you, Saint-Saëns, for leaving out a lot of songs that you composed in the romantic slash modernist era. And I'm so glad to listen to your music and learn about you. And I would have told the story about Saint-Saëns, his life, but I'm not as full familiar with the story. Okay, so I'm reading for what's recorded from the booklet from my panorama. It's actually by a quote from a guy, which I don't want to I don't want to name drop him, but you should be able to. If you guys goes in the in the comments, if you guys goes out there who are my subscribers, my social media are in the description. I give more details about them because even though I don't really make too much videos than before, but I'm planning on working on it. But I'm currently still busy. And by the way, tomorrow is going to be Ludwig van Beethoven's birthday. My favorite, I think, in my opinion, my number one favorite classical composer. In my opinion, well, I would not say classical composer, but I would say he's my number one favorite composer from the not just by romantic era, but holy crap, he's actually, in my opinion, my favorite composer. In my opinion, I'm probably born and raised in Paris, and yes, realizing that I am recording with the light in front of my face, I'm trying to figure out how should I record videos if I had to read stuff, but it's gonna be because I don't think I didn't really give details too much about Camille Saint-Saëns, but I'm gonna read how much I can. Read much as I can. That city at the 10th history of European culture. Saint-Saëns left his mark on almost every era of French musical life. A virtuoso on the piano and organ, he held the post of organist at the fashionable church of the Mendelian of nearly 20 years. He taught at the École Mayer, where Friar was a pupil, and he composed in every conceivable genre from oratorio to film music. He long outlived his contemporaries and the controversies that had gripped them, and came to personify the link between the classicalism of his youth, when Beethoven's Ninth Symphony was a novelty, and the brittle modernism of French music in his final years. Logic, craftsmanship, and lightness of touch were Saint-Saëns' essential characteristics. He had none of the mysterious instinct he ascribed to Berlioz in his book Portraits and Souvenirs. God dang, I'm so bad at grammar. But built on the models of the classics, particularly that of Mozart in early age, which he learns towards the murky shadows of Mozart's Don Giovanni. It's the section of Mozart work. I don't know if I pronounce it correctly. I'm not the best of reading or grammar more accurately. But rather than the Lucias of his piano crescendos, for instance, Saint-Saëns was a pioneer in promoting and emulating the later aspect with 5 piano crescendos composed over a span of 40 years. The G minor second piano crescendo, written in less than 3 years in 1868, has the character of a diverse testament, particularly in its springy central movement and galloping finale, but also the faintly plaintive melodic. God dang it, I'm so garbage at this. Turns of phrase, which appear like a thumbprint in Saint-Saëns' music. The introduction and rondo capriccioso for violin and orchestra of 5 years earlier explores the same vein, with a Spanish coloring that is even more pronounced in the lightning charismatic theme of the Havanas of 1887. Saint-Saëns' openness to new development was a feature of his early years, and he adapted to the descriptive symphonic poem. Liszt's elaboration of the concert overture. If you don't know who Liszt is, it's Franz Liszt, who made the famous Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2. And I actually have a panorama of Franz Liszt. By the way, I'm going to talk about him later on. In a number of works written in the 1870s, Danse Macabre is a musical depiction of a spooky poem by Henry Cancellys. A Doctor Who, along with Valerie and Mallory belonged to the group of symbolist poets. It wrote under the name of Jean Lahar. Here, death fiddles in the churchyard at midnight for skeletons to rise and dance. The elegance ruined the Ophil's spinning wheel. Refers to the myth of Hercules' enslavement by Queen Ophil of Lydia. The hero's punishment for having committed murder. Ophil had Hercules dressed as a woman to do the woman's work of weaving, and kept him as her lover for 3 years. Saint-Saëns' only lasting success in the opera house. The biblical epic Samson and Delilah. It also explores the theme of an emasculated hero, composed in the same period as the symphonic poets. Initially as an oratorio rather than a stage work, it was rejected by the Paris Opera. The first performance was given in Weimar in 1877 with the assistance of Liszt, and the opera only reached Paris in 1890. At first, Samson is able to resist the power of Delilah seductive and ductifera. Long curious of, oh god, it's gonna be so hard to pronounce. But this one is from Samsung. It's still Samson. It's Dalilia. This is so cringe for me to read. This is why you should not allow me to read so fast. But hey, I'm still reading. But ultimately, he yells and reveals the secret of his strength. Deprived of his power and helpless, he is forced to witness the Bacchianello dance by the Philistines. By prayer, restores his strength in an unsuitably grand closing since he grasps the pillars of the temple and brings the building crashing down. Saint-Saëns composed comparatively little of the organ alone, but brilliantly exploited the power of the instrument by introducing it into his third symphony, composed in 1886. The choice of key, an earnest C minor, in the troubled mood of the opening movement signal a work of intense seriousness, confirmed in the subsequent movements. The heartfelt adagio driving scherzo and majestic finale. At the same time, he was completing this imposing essay in symbolic form. He also put together a witty parade of animal portraits and musical spoofs of such ferocity that, with the exception of the gliding swan, he kept it concealed from the general place like a guilty secret. When the score of this grand zoological fantasia, the Carnival of the Animals, was finally revealed after Saint-Saëns' death, it showed the composer at his most unbuttoned, poking gentle fun at all sorts of animals. Tortoises who lumber through a fun real can, jolly fossils who break into a clacking snatch of both the Danse Macabre and the Barber of Seville. And by the way, the Barber of Seville is by Gioacchino Rossini, another composer. I think if I'm correct, he was a classical composer. I'm guessing. If I'm correct, let me know in the comments. I actually don't. I'm very curious to know, but I'm gonna know. I'm gonna know it. I'm gonna be like, God dang it, I almost had it. Pianists with their infuriating scales and a magical aquarium of eerie underwater sounds. By Kenneth Chalmers. Well, I kind of technically already give him a shout out already by that quote, by what he said about this guy, about the life. So guys and girls, I actually have no idea what Saint-Saëns actually passed away. Let me know in the comments down below what cause of death did he had, because I have no idea. I tried to look at I'm trying to find out how he passed away, because I know he passed away at an old age, but I still have no idea how he passed away. I'm trying to look as far as I can, but I'm not one of those guys trying to believe in the conspiracy theories, like, oh, he passed away from this, or he's still alive. No, I don't believe in none of those. I'm trying to figure out how he actually passed away. Even though in some composers' death, there was like theories, or some people were divided about how they actually die. Like, I have no idea. But wow. I actually have no idea how he passed away. It's crazy. I know he passed away at the age of 85. He was actually 86. 86 years old. 86 years old. Because he celebrated his birthday at 86. And he actually celebrated his birthday 2 months later. Alright, actually, he actually celebrated his birthday 2 months later. He passed away. That is sad. And if you guys and girls enjoy my dedication to Saint-Saëns, like, comment, subscribe, share this video with your friends and family. And my social media are subscribe, tap the bell for notifications to go directly to that video. And my social media are in the description, Facebook and Instagram. And as always, I will see you in the next video. Change the world. Peace and love. And this outro is going to be different because this wall, especially during this COVID is going on, especially with the pandemic going on, please wear your mask. Please wear your mask and please stay home. If you don't have a mask, stay home. If you're scared to go anywhere and you're scared of what's going to happen if you go somewhere or when the numbers are increasing huge, just stay home. Because it's very high risk to go out to places, especially in my city that I'm going through. I mean, I'm not going places just for fun or like anything. I'm going for the places just for for not only just like buying stuff. I mean, it's mostly on like because it's me and my father are mechanical worker, and we both go to stores, not too much. We don't, because me and my dad, we basically say we don't want to go to the place anymore because they not only as the deaths are increasing, but the cases are increasing like crazy now, especially ever since Thanksgiving Day happened too. So I encourage you to wear, if you want to go to places for any reason, please wear your mask and be careful out there because one day you get the virus too, and it sucks. It sucks. But even though you're gonna think to yourself, "Oh, there's gonna be a recovery from it." Well, honestly, you're gonna have to do it on your own risk. You can't just go out there just to get a virus so you can get recovered, because stuff like that don't really have recoveries yet. Because you're that's why I'd rather encourage you to just I'm just gonna for now on I'm gonna end videos because I'm gonna do a lot of like videos lately or more because tomorrow's gonna be I'm gonna be doing a birthday celebration of Beethoven because his birthday is on the next day after Saint-Saëns' death, and it's crazy too to think about it because composers like a composer died and another composer's birthday is on the next day after the death of him, and it's actually surprising, actually shocked me too. But holy crap. So I will see you in the next video. Change the world. Please wear your masks. And stay at home. Stay social distancing. Stay, I would say, 6 foot away from a person that you're communicating with. Practice social distancing, people. And wash your hands. Use sanitizers. Because those can protect you. Wherever you touch anything of wherever you go somewhere, you have to sanitize yourself because when you don't use it, then you catch one. So I encourage you to protect yourself as much as you can because it's so scary out there in the real world out there too. Because if you don't want to go to a place anymore, or if you're scared to go there just to get one, if you're scared because you're afraid to catch one, just stay home. I know it may I know it may suck for staying home for a while, but it is protective more than just go out to public places too, because it's been getting way high risky than before. So I don't want to talk too much about this subject matter, but I already can't wrap up because at New Year's Eve I am going to make a video about my wrap up of the year. So, and I'm gonna give you. Well, I already basically created like words of what like I would basically describe this year in a couple of words, and I'm gonna say it when I make that video when I make that video, and I already know what I'm gonna. I already know what I'm gonna say since last month in November because actually in the early November I would say like in November I would say 5th or 6th, but that is where I started to have words to describe what this year was. But you're gonna stay tuned, and it's not that far. It's just 2 weeks later, and stay safe, people. And I will see you in the next video. Peace and love. I think I've said peace and love. I don't think I did. And also, rock on, or keep rock on, and I have no idea what to say at the moment. I don't know. It's really late tonight. I'm recording it late, so at 11 p.m. on the 11 p.m. here. But holy crap! And I have no words to describe, but stay safe and stay tuned for my next video. Bye bye.